then it went back down. This year it is increasing to 15%, but capital projects still require 20%, which is what the buses require. So in past years, we have always tied service to the purchase of buses. That typically is on a 5 to 7 year cycle, dependent upon the size of the bus. Wabasha's bus is the smaller one that we have, so it's class 400, and that is typically 5 to 6 years. But it's weighted, it's based on miles, the condition of the bus, repairs, different things like that. And then MnDOT comes back and says, we're gonna approve 15 buses this year, and so once they open it, everybody has to submit what vehicles you're looking to be replaced, and then everybody's gets ranked. So even if you put it in, doesn't mean you're gonna get it. When COVID hit, we went through a 5-year span where we didn't get any buses at all. So we had communities that had been expecting buses that never came, and what does anybody do when they have money that they don't spend? They spend it. And we did the same thing. So it really puts everybody in a bind. So that's why we have chosen, we are no longer tying the service to buses. It is basically a fee for service. So every community that we operate in will be contributing every year. So it is a set amount of money that everybody can count on, get it in your budget, rather than, 5 years ago when a bus came in, it was barely $100,000. New buses that we're looking at for next year are about 215,000 for
They actually just worked out the contract, so they're looking at the base level of about 175,000 for class 400, so they were able to work with our vendors and get that price down.
So still almost done. I mean, that's a pretty substantial, and if you're looking at 20%, that's a big chunk of change. So we had communities that got 3 buses in, and that when you're not counting on it, when you take the buses when you haven't got a new bus in 5 years. And we have at our peak, we have 22 buses on the road throughout our communities. So, and we have 31 in our fleet. So when you have none, and then all of a sudden you get them in, you really don't want to turn them. So that is where the MOU comes into play. We are looking at, as we had mentioned, when we met with Emily, we are looking at some alternatives for Wabasha, possibly a smaller van type. One of the issues that we have in our rural communities is the big buses can't turn around. Really, the new buses are really nice, but the turning radius is even worse than the old ones. So that is something that, especially when you're transporting, individuals with disabilities, mobility devices, they can't walk as far. And when the bus can't back up because there's no room to back up, or it's a company policy, we don't allow buses, our buses to back up, especially in residential areas, just because you never know what you're going to encounter. So we have started looking into vans. MnDOT did add vans onto the state contract. So some of the more rural communities, if they would like to go away from the bus, then you can purchase a van. They will still be handicap accessible. But we also just came across another bus that is, it will fit the same amount as our current bus, but it's on a smaller chassis. It's actually on a Dodge.
Yeah.
So it looks like more of a van, it's just a lot larger, so you can still fit, it still has the 2 secured locations for the lifts, for the wheelchairs and stuff like that. So those are price wise, van would be a little bit less expensive. The only thing that would do is basically lower the cost of operating in this area, but neither actually affects the MOU and the fee that we are asking the city of Wabasha for. Does anybody have any questions on the MOU?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've not performed well in use by students or children in Wabasha, and I think there's maybe gonna be a change because our Head Start kids are no longer in Wabasha.
Correct.
Maybe you can explain that a little bit, I think that's maybe an area we could hope to see growth.
Yep, and Tracy and I are looking to, get an appointment made with the school district so that we can get in and talk with them. We do transportation for the, ski group, and we also, this summer, we did transportation for the summer school to Lake City. But in the past, there hasn't been a lot of interest for school-age children. How do we have?
I think the school district has a policy that if you have a sibling in school, you can ride the bus, and that's one of the reasons why they do bus transport for 4-year-olds in other districts, but not here.
And I know too, one of the things I looked into after, I think the TAC meeting, maybe, I can't remember when we spoke last about it. When you look at the DAC times, we're dropping off at DAC in between 8 and 8:30, and then we're picking up at 3 in the afternoon.
Same school.
Yeah, same as school, so it's
During one of the TAP meetings, I thought, oh, but there is that middle of the day.
yes, the
preschool.
middle of the day, we definitely have availability if there was preschool, and that's where.
Yeah, and that's hard, cause you know, parents, a lot of times what we find is they say, well, that's great to get them there, but how am I gonna get them home?
Right, yeah.
So,
No, I hear that from childcare providers, that they could definitely see some of their kids remain partially in their care, but the transit thing becomes a problem, they just ship them off to preschool and don't look back, and even if it's not really, even if the child is priority for all day preschool.
yeah, and so it just, because we are first come, first served, when we don't get the request for a school, and then when DAC approached us years ago and, you know, hey, can you do this? Well, sure. You know, it's still within the community of Wabasha, so.
Any questions for Diane and Tracy? Thank you guys for clarifying this, kind of coming up with a different paradigm, I think for us to digest and be, you know, consistent with. And so, as you know, both Carol and I were very surprised by the initial reach out. I think we weren't making you a priority, not because we didn't want to hear from you, but because we have so many priorities, and we thought it was more of a, let's get to know your community, and in reality, it's a, let's figure out how we're gonna continue to work together.
Yeah, and there had been a question raised if some of our communities were seeking funding from the counties. Our agreements are all with the cities. If you guys choose and you want to go to the county, you are certainly welcome to do that if you want them to chip in. Just kind of a caution, that will expand the service area. It could, I should say. Because if they're gonna contribute, then they might say, well, how far out are you gonna go? And right now, everything is kind of based, when we're in the dial-a-ride communities, it's not really distance based, it's based more on availability. We don't like to tell anybody no, so Kellogg is included in Wabasha, but you know, potentially that might mean, you know, we have to go farther that way or farther this way. So, if there's anything that we can do to help you on that front, if you want specific statistics or anything like that, by all means, reach out and, you know, we can try to provide more information.
Yeah, I don't recall the county ever reaching to us and saying we need more assistance for our clients.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so it'd be a hard pitch if they feel like they're satisfied with.
There's agencies that have a joint powers board have more success getting funding from the counties than other agencies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you bringing us the new model, I guess, and we look forward to the new vehicles, and I think it's good that we have an option that might be a little bit more flexible for, that's the only complaint I do hear is sometimes, well, they can't come into my driveway, or they can't come quite to the curb, and why can't they? So,
Yeah.
Or you have to drop a 3-year-old off half a block from their daycare provider, which nobody wants, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, if we do look at a smaller vehicle like a van, it kind of locks you in. I mean, we always have spare vehicles in our fleet, but we don't want to go purchase a brand new van specifically for here, and then, which would be very good news if the ridership all of a sudden doubled or quadrupled, but then the van isn't gonna be accessible. It's not gonna, we're gonna get capacity all the time, so.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
So we're gonna discuss this later in the meeting, so you guys are free to hang out or and listen to the discussion, or we're probably, I think if anyone had a question, they asked it, so.
okay, yeah, we'll just get out of here.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you guys.
All right, now we will take public comment if you are online, if anybody online. If you're online or present here at City Hall, you can join us at the podium, state your name and residence for the record, and let us know a couple minutes of your thoughts. Hi, Kate.
I am Kate, 224 Third Street East. I've got comments, but also questions on two areas in the agenda. The first one really is on, the sidewalk administration. And I see it's kind of lumped into also the new nuance, ordinance. And I don't really know, we asked should it be complaint driven or should we never take a site survey? And broadly speaking, the residents want to be charged additional fees, okay? No one wants to charge an additional fee for anything, you know that that's a given. But if, when we all walk on our streets and we all use our streets, we're gonna eat the steak, we should be charged with the steak. Second thing is with this new nuisance ordinance, once we get that put together, please help us support Caroline. So when she says, I need to have an ordinance so that I can enforce it across, I feel so strongly about that. We have to help her. We have to have courage. We just wound up in one of the coolest hidden gems along the river. And I want to do whatever we can. I don't know if you saw it come through. Actually came through in Instagram feed. The second thing that I don't know, and Tony's not here, but it's on the Port Authority, and I don't know this, so this is to help me understand. He's asking for additional monies owed from the Port Authority to the general fund up to 400,000, okay? It lists it right here. It's, what I don't understand is Girder.
oh, okay, Tyler's here, yeah.
Tyler can help, okay.
Mhm.
What I don't understand, Tyler, is typically, I know I don't wanna get myself or my company into big debt because it's hard to get out of. But where are the revenue streams that will come through to help him? Or is this, are we doing this because it'll help us as a community obtain more funding or grants?
Yeah, it helps us get funding for the barge terminal project, which does generate revenue for the Port Authority.
Do you feel really confident we would be able to pay that off within a reasonable period of time?
Yeah.
So this is like a no-brainer.
Should be.
Yep.
Okay,
You can stay for that part of the agenda if you want to hear it discussed further, but yeah.
okay.
Part of it, just to get very nuanced, we have grants that cover a lot of it, but the grants are requiring that they see the funds on hand, so. Yeah,
They're basically requiring us to show that we're in a good financial position to accept the grant. Does that make you happy?
You know I'm all about the money.
Thank you, Kate. Was there a question? Oh, the sidewalk piece, that'll be a discussion because Dean brought that up as a desire to kind of revisit the policy on that. I think we've got now Tony's lived experience of surveying people and checking to see whether their sidewalk is intact and generating a lot of frustrated residents. Sort of like, what are you messing with me for? Or allowing it to continue to be complaint driven, which I don't think is a broken system. So we'll talk about that later if you want to stay for that discussion. It'll be in the YouTube.
Thank you.
And was that it? Yeah. Jack.
yeah,
I'm Jack Burns, 34 Skyline Drive. Curious as to how many short-term rental or new ones have been licensed since the August meeting?
We did a moratorium.
Yeah, but it wasn't effective until
Oh,
yesterday.
okay, yeah, that we're still in process.
I
That's a
think,
Lisa question.
3 or 4, I could pull it
Okay.
up. Do you want me to-
Anybody that was.
I put in a public information request and it didn't get back to me today, so that's what I was wondering.
Did you put the request in?
Yeah,
When did you put it in?
like 1:30.
Yeah, she wouldn't have had time to get it back to you right away.
Okay, that's fine. I just figured I'd
I-
ask you here then since I didn't get it there.
I do believe that. In their licensing portion at the city end.
He's asking how many registered,
Oh,
I can pull up the spreadsheet, but. Anyways, it wasn't crazy, but people definitely registered,
Okay,
um,
so when would that compiled information be able to be publicly available?
did we agree to do that yet?
I think the main thing is we have no issue I personally have no issue like publishing addresses, but we didn't wanna do like names, emails and contact information. Because of, we don't want them to get solicited online, so then you have to go through a information.
Yeah, and I just was wondering, like, cause I know.
It was right after holiday weekend and she got slammed with people registering today, so I'm sure she'll get back to you. She's
Yeah.
really good at it. It's just,
They're just not saying.
needs a little bit of time. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
it's just hard to be an informed citizen without the information being available, so.
I'll mention it to her right away tomorrow.
Okay, no, I mean, I talked to her today, I just think it would be worthwhile for you guys to see what the delay, you know. Came up as, cause you had it as a resolution, it was supposed to take effect last month, and you delayed it a month. And I know that was partly because the realtors asked for it, but I don't think that was actually some of the outcome. So I'd be curious to see what happens there, and then, I guess to follow up on that, what are the next steps in creating more robust short-term rental ordinance, what are the next steps?
We'll conduct the study, and that'll involve primarily our planning staff, planning and zoning staff. Christy Driscoll will head that up. So that was what we adopted as our resolution, is to accept a moratorium or create a moratorium and further study the issue. So I don't know when Christy plans to begin that.
Yeah, we'd encourage everyone to, you know, attend the next planning commission meeting. She's gonna summarize her research. And she's targeting November to approve a change, so she's just gonna present kind of research, what other communities are doing on this issue. And get some general feedback from planning commission, so Tim, is that on the 16th?
I'm guessing if we're gonna have it, it'll be on the
Yeah.
ninth.
Oh, the 9th. Okay, so a
Next
week from
Tuesday.
today,
I haven't seen.
6
the agenda
o'clock.
yet, so.
The agenda will get published
Friday.
Friday,
Okay,
and then,
so there's not gonna be any analysis of our actual community demographics of it, it's gonna be looking at what everybody else is doing.
Of both, I think.
I would think it would be both,
Yeah.
but I would assume over the next 2 or 3 months, we'll get it all. It's not gonna be all instantly done tomorrow, next week, so.
No, I'm not saying it'll be instant.
I'm guessing over the
I'm
next
looking for
2 months.
steps that are happening, because it's been months since the moratorium was, you know, initiated.
But there's not been a moratorium until now, so those caught up properties were just, today was the deadline, right? Or was it-
Yesterday,
Okay, yeah, first.
first,
And
yeah.
then the next planning meeting will be this 9th. That'll be the first time planning as a body, which is how that works, planning as a
Yep,
body.
yep.
Hear from Christy. I'm guessing she'll be looking for some response from planning based on what she's presents. How do you want us to go further? And then that planning body will share with council their recommendations, and then council will see if we agree with. what-
Yeah, if it's like any other moratorium, usually I would say we would spend 2 or 3 months on it at the planning commission. And then present something to council.
Okay,
Solar would have been the most
Usually.
recent, would solar have been the most recent moratorium?
Yeah, and then we did basically that, we just kind of. Studied what other communities did, studied what we have, what's our, capacity, what do we really wanna do we not even wanna touch it, all the steps. So that will be over the next couple months, and then
So
I would say by, September, October, by November, we should probably have some recommendations. Probably bring it back to council for input, take it back to planning for final recommendations and stuff.
and those planning meetings are just like this, they're public.
Okay.
Tuesday meetings.
So
yeah, okay. Does the input only come from?
you could send anything right now if you want.
Okay.
So if you wanna send Wendy or Christie or even I, send an email, or if you have
Sure.
thoughts, whatever. I'm assuming with there's changes, there'll be a public hearing too, so you'll have the ability.
Right.
So not every meeting will open it up to the public, but you'll still have it, we'll still have public comment like this, so.
Sure.
You can
Okay.
send in your thoughts, anything.
Writing, in writing or in person.
Yeah, okay,
doing a quick by hand count of the latest spreadsheet updated today, I'm counting 5 new registrations,
this August,
yes.
okay,
I think about what we expect.
Yeah, we expected 3 or 4 for sure, so.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright, no, that's fair, just want to understand, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other public comment? I don't see Bill here. Anybody online?
No.
Okay, hearing no further public comment, I'm not going to, well, first of all, any changes or additions to the agenda, do we need to move anything around?
We just added something at the last minute, 10-7, and just to avoid confusion on the order, I just asked staff, if it's added last minute. we're not putting it in consent, so
Yeah,
then you
okay.
can see it.
Alright, sounds good. Hearing nothing further, we'll keep our agenda the way it is on the current website. And I'm not gonna make a presentation, we have plenty to discuss tonight, but you know, I think we all feel a lot of sympathy for the school, really desiring to get up and running today and show off the work that was completed this summer. And unfortunately, if you haven't heard, they are delayed due to a mold problem that apparently multiple schools in the southern region have faced this really hot, wet.
I heard 21.
Wow, so it's never to feel, it doesn't really make it easier, but to know that you're not the only one, I guess, maybe they'll collaborate and understand some of the factors that were at play. But our kids really wanna, well, most of our kids wanna get back to school, some of them wanna continue to fish all summer long, so. That's my presentation, I want them to get back to school. Committee reports, utilities, did you guys need today?
Yeah, nothing important.
Do you wanna talk about, you and Tyler wanna talk about port? Some of the
Yeah.
priorities there?
So at the Port Authority, we approved the next, round of drilling at the old athletic field for the new highway. So now they do need to do kind of additional drilling to site the new road. We were on a board for approval for a $275,000 grant that we applied for, the port did, to assist people building new housing in Wabasha. And so, we're gonna create kind of like the HVAC grant program, our own local program, locally administered, but following their guidelines, to help people get homes built in Wabasha. Sewer jetting is on, and then, anything else from port, I think it was just like, you know, we're still proceeding with permits and pushing things forward. We expect another fall haul for the Army Corps. Sewer jetting is underway, and we received a grant to address more research on potentially siting wells if PFAS turn out to be an issue, but we're still testing if we actually have a PFAS concern. And then some additional testing was been completed by the state of Minnesota Health Department to see where the PFAS in Wabasha may be coming from, which is gonna be good data to have. And then just wanted to say that we posted some pictures from the skate park grand opening on our website and Facebook, and we had a great attendance, and it was kind of a fun event that the mayor and I participated in.
There's a lot of city staff.
Yeah, here we go, yeah, and there were way more kids even there, in the background. Oh, it's, yeah, I gotta connect, but.
Yeah, Diane was there for the paper and she was trying to get. I looked at her like, we've been here for 4 hours today, so it was a good event. And do you wanna share a little bit of good news with the DNR grant, or the DNR permit? That you got from, or we're expecting good news on the permit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just for the port
Yeah.
project, yeah, we are expecting hopefully approval of this. The DNR permit, so that's kind of the last, I'm gonna celebrate till
Oh,
I
yeah.
get that in hand.
We finished August, kind of with a bang. We had calls on Sunday, we had two backup calls, which we had 2 trucks out at the same time, and we had 1/3 call. That we were able to handle as well, we had 2 helicopter stream flights. For August total, we had 101 calls, 683 for the year, we're up 86 calls over this point last year. We took 23 transfers, and we're 55% for August, which is our best month that we've had. We had 19 backup calls in August, 81 total for the year. We only had 68 all of last year, so we're getting more and more calls that we have 2 rigs out at the same time. We took, we're at 127 transfers for the year, we took 119 all of last year. Over the last 4 months, we're at 400 calls even, so we're averaging 100 calls a month. I just did some numbers today because I thought it was interesting. So far this year, we've performed 20 different procedures, a total of 573 individual times. And we've given 36 different medications, 361 individual things. We're already getting calls for September, and then the best news yet, I'm picking up our new truck on Friday at 10 AM. It's finally coming after like 30 months of waiting.
That's great. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you to everybody on the crew. Tony, any streets or park news?
Evening, everyone. The park board did not meet, but the pool is closed, so onward and upward with that. We got some work to do in plumbing there, that's in the consent agenda. Streets Commission met today, we talked about the Anchor Point possible project out there. Discuss city code, and then they're gonna kind of go back and see how that works in their project. And then we discussed the Wabasha boatyard, Lower Arena. Expansion on some of their seasonal units, what you call them down there. So we talked about traffic and different things in the process, and they went to meet with utilities today too, and so they're gonna go through that process and see where they end up. Post Street storm sewer needs to be cleaned out, so I got some bids on that, and that was actually a lot lower than, I don't know if both of their quotes are in here, but the one was around 7,500 or seven. Another one come in at 3550, so we'll go with that one. So that won't have to, Caroline can approve that one. And I give them an update on the street project, basically. I think, we need a decision on the golf course, whatever the amount's gonna be for the assessment, and just let them know what the schedule is later this year, and then, Market Street will be next spring, so. Other than that. Okay.
I have to say that, once you guys go around Campbell and stuff like that tar, it's been very, very good.
Really nice.
I have not seen any chipping or anything right now, so I think that's a quality product that you guys put down.
And people like it a lot better than the loose rock, we can chip seal, but it's a little more expensive, so I gotta try and see how the budget plays out this winter.
We'll see how it stands out this winter with pollen and stuff like that. So,
Thanks, Tony. Planning?
how would it be?
Okay, all right, and Carolyn, you gave us everything in your report. Yep. Okay, so on our consent agenda, the pool, mechanical and plumbing and state requirements, Tony talked about this at the budget workshop to our August 5th regular council minutes, the September warrants, the National Eagle Center's event permit and temporary liquor license for their one-day event, and the August 26th special council minutes. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move. So,
Motion from Tim, second from Jean. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. All right, and our public hearing tonight, under general business one, we have our general obligation improvement and tax abatement bond discussion. We have Mike here in person. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Tell me what I'm supposed to be opening.
You know what, how about bond cash flow? Because all of the language in the letter and so forth,
Okay,
basically,
so the exhibit,
yes.
Okay.
And this will summarize, yeah, I'd love to zoom in.
all right. We can put that.
Okay. So, the council probably remembers, that periodically through time, we've done updates to the city's capital financial plan. And one of the projects that was included in that was this year's, street utility improvements. We had anticipated, we're a little over $2 million project, that's where we're at. One difference that we're kind of deviating from is that instead of doing the entirety of all of the work in 2025, a portion of it will be bid out in 2026. So it's important to note that when I'm doing recommendations for the sizing of the debt, it's based on bids and actual known costs for the 25 portion, but on the engineer's estimates for 26. But in discussing that with staff and the engineer, that felt like a better strategy than doing two separate bond issues, because it'll save you tens of thousands of dollars in issuance costs for the next, for next year. Okay, so a number of recommendations back to the first. So first of all has to do with bond sizing. So in the top left, it's hard to read, but between the bid for this year's construction and estimate for next year's construction, the engineering, And then there's a total of $78,000 of contingency, as recommended by the engineer. That totals $1,942,172 in capital costs. We have a variety of issuance expenses. The first one, the underwriter's compensation. You know, typically the purchaser of the bond is not going to be holding the bond themselves. They're purchasing it so they can piece it up and sell it to their customers. And they discount how much they pay you, but turn around and sell it for at least the par amount of the bonds, and that's how they make their money. And by rule, we can offer discount allowance up to 2%. And so we wanna offer enough discount allowance that, it'll garner the interest. So 1.25% is pretty typical, for a bond of this size and term. However, just rest assured, if you're concerned that it isn't enough and that we might get bidders to shy away, there's other ways for investment banks to make money, and that is, instead of reselling the bonds at par to their underlying customers, they could sell them at a premium. And so that premium would generate the cash necessary to fund their additional compensation if needed. Having said that, recognize that there's probably a likelihood that there will be a premium sale, even if they don't need extra compensation. And the reason being is for the last 2-3 years now, it seems like people are concerned about where interest rates are gonna be in the future. And so what they wanna do is pay a premium, pay cash, to not have these interest rates that are shown on the bottom of this page, but to slap a higher interest rate on the bonds. And so what we do is we take that cash, that premium comes back to us, and we downsize the bond if it's significant. And so at the end of the day, your payment should be the same. Either you borrow the full amount at a lower rate, or you borrow less at a higher rate. The payment should work out pretty much the same. And so we keep an eye on that stuff. There's no way for us to control those, I'll call them shenanigans, on the backside. The only way we kind of indirectly control it is through a competitive sale. Because every time they play that game, they're messing around with the net effective rate of the bonds. And we're gonna award based on the lowest net effective rate of the bond. So, just recognizing we'll be keeping an eye on that. So the issuance cost there, the municipal advisor, that's us. Bond counsel, historically has been Taft Law. Yep. They were formerly known as Briggs and Morgan, and Mary April is still with them. She's worked for you for years. A pay agent is simply a third party who tracks all the underlying investors. So when this thing gets pieced up by 100 parties, they will be the agents that invoice you for the payment, and then they'll disperse it to all those underlying people. They will also charge an annual servicing fee, not shown on here. It's like $495 a year. Printing and miscellaneous has to do with the preparation of the official statement, which is the disclosure document we work on. And in fact, Tyler, I think you're working on the city certificate. Thank you for that. As well as mileage and all those kinds of things. And then the rating, I'm going to encourage the city to pursue a Standard & Poor's credit rating, because for that $15,000, we're gonna get an interest rate that's 0.5 point to 0.75 point lower than what we would ordinarily get. And that could be 7, 8, 9 times more in interest savings as a result of that rating. So, knowing your financial position and past history with rating, I think that's a good idea. All right, so anyways, you put all that together, we've got a bond amount of $2,015,000. We expect when you get these bond proceeds, you're going to have them in an interest-bearing account. So we use $4,000 of construction fund earnings just as a rounding figure, really. And with the one portion of the project being delayed to 2026, it's quite possible that you're gonna earn more than the $4,000 shown. But what I would like to do is have that be, I hate to use the term, but gravy, because then you could use it to offset any, if that $78,000 contingency isn't enough, it'll be added dollars for you there. Okay, now as far as statutory authority, we can't just issue that in Minnesota, right? We gotta state which authority we're gonna use, and whatever that authority is, we have to follow by those rules. And originally, I thought this was going to be purely what we call an improvement bond issued under chapter 429, which is one that says you will special assess all of the benefiting properties, at least 20% of the cost. And Caroline, if I could get you to flip to the next page.
The letter?
Oh, yeah, no,
tax abatement.
stay on that exhibit
Oh, okay, sorry.
and just scroll down.
Okay, where'd it go? Oh, I'll just leave it.
There it is.
Good, okay. The next page?
Yeah. Yep, this one. So. What you'll see, well, it's hard to see, but I'm gonna just come over here for a second. Right here, you're gonna have a summary of the anticipated special assessment rolls for each of the 25 and the 26 projects. If you add those together and compare it. It would not be 20% of the overall project, right? And so what I had to do under this authority is limit this portion of the bonds so that those assessments represented the required 20%. And then what I did is I took all the remaining costs and moved it into supplemental authority, and in this case, I'm advising tax abatement authority. This, you may not remember this, staff will remember this. This is the identical strategy we used for our big project that included the athletic field and the other public infrastructure project at that time. Now, using tax abatement authority, what that requires, I saw that.
Alright. I love talking about tax abatement authority, come on.
We have to have a public hearing and we have to identify parcels that benefit. It doesn't have to necessarily even be a direct benefit, it just has to have some sort of nexus to the project. And there, the city taxes on those parcels have to add up to the principal amount of that portion of the bonds. Thank you, that's great. So the parcels I've identified are down there in the lower, in the red area. The map has colors where there's work being done around the city. But I just started down at the bottom and there was sufficient city tax support there that I didn't need to go any further. Now, when we do that public hearing, we'll publish a notice in the paper saying, hey, we're having the tax abatement hearing, here's the parcel numbers. And somebody that knows their parcel number is gonna see that and say, what the heck is the city doing to me? And the answer is absolutely nothing. This is a paper exercise only. And so go back to the exhibit and go to the tax abatement piece. Which would be like the third page, yeah. You're gonna see two columns here. You're gonna see tax levies and tax abatement levies. And what I want you to think of is those are tax abatement levies. I just want you to think of them as regular levies. In fact, I want you in your mind, you combine those two columns into one. Because what happens is when you certify these levies to the county, they don't know which parcels. They just spread it across the entire city. So I'm gonna say it tonight, and then I'm gonna say it again at the public hearing in October. If your parcel is identified, your taxes don't change, they're not calculated any differently. We're not doing anything to you that we're not doing to anybody else in the city of Wabasha. Okay, it's simply a legal mumbo jumbo, and if it wasn't for rules like this, I wouldn't have a job. Okay, so there's that bonus. All right, so of the two authorities, $1,070,000 would be under the improvement authority in chapter 429, that's the one with special assessments. And then the remaining $945,000 would be done as tax abatement authority for the remainder of the borrowing. In terms of how many years do we go out, I'm showing final maturity February 1st, 2042, meaning it'll impact your budgets through taxes payable 2041. It's pretty close to what we had done in my capital planning worksheets. It's lost by 1 year simply because of that movement of the 26th project you pushed out. So that final maturity did get pushed back 1 more year. But all in all, based on current market conditions, we expect payments to be pretty close to what we had in our planning. So we're on track is my point. Caroline, you're going to pay, good job. Can we go back to the first page?
Yeah.
Is this, I don't know if this is part of your page duties or not. Let's go over to the right hand side. Couple things to point out. Yeah, up there, it goes right there, perfect. If somebody says, well, what's the interest rate? Let's say someone from the public says, what's the interest rate on the bonds? And then you show them these payment schedules and you see all these different interest rates and so forth, that would be very confusing. What we do is we mush all that up together along with the underwriter's discount allowance, which is considered an interest expense, and come up with a net effective rate. And that's at 4.13%. So if somebody was to ask, that's what we're projecting. Now, a month from now, who knows? Rates could go down, rates could go up, I don't know, but that's where we are right now. And then you're going to see something here, you don't have to move it, but it says the call option. And then February 1st of 33. This is something that the council can set. But basically, it's a promise not to prepay or refinance these bonds until a certain date and time. And that's because when these investment banks and underwriters bid on the purchase of these bonds, they don't want you to pay them off next Tuesday. They want to make sure the investments are going to be good for at least a period of time. And so what we would like is we could prepay it at any time, no penalties, so forth, but we'll get dinged huge on the interest rate if we don't offer some sort of protection. So the trick is, how far out should we go with that call option to keep flexibility on the city side, but not get dinged on the interest rate? And I would say that this is a decent enough protection. Okay, and then just in terms of interest rate, one of the nice things about doing a competitive sale, I did consider, maybe we do a direct bank placement, issuance costs are much lower, interest rate would be a little higher. Would that be a better option? Because, staff is going to, well, they'll remember from the last one that this is a lot of work on their part. Would it be easier to do a bank placement? And I don't see us getting a deal that would compete. And so it's in the best interest to go this route. But having said that, instead of coming to you tonight with a ready to go proposal on a bank offer, what this is gonna allow us to do is gonna take a period of time. We wouldn't come back until October 7th. That morning, I would take bids, and we bid it out just like a road project, instead of bidding, so many feet of blacktop or so forth. We bid the principal amounts, and then they plug in their interest rates and their compensation, and then take the best bid based on that. But by delaying till that day, we potentially have a Federal Reserve action coming up September 17th, I think, is we're gonna find out if there's a rate cut or not. I think this Friday there's a jobs report coming out, and so the betting was that there's absolutely gonna be a 4-point cut in the middle of September. Now there's a bunch of people feeling wishy-washy on that, so I have no idea. And if somebody tells you they know, they're lying. Okay, so but the benefit is we'll have that, because one thing, if we had done a bank placement, unless I had an offer for you today and you accepted it, and then there was a rate cut, you'd be like, hey, so I think this is probably the best way to make sure you get the lowest overall cost of borrowing. Why don't I stop there? Oh, in terms of the revenues, you're gonna now see the tax levies and tax abatement levies, which you combine for the purposes of your budgeting. But we do have water and sewer revenues that are pledged to the portion of the bonds that's right consistent with our planning, was that water and sewer was gonna make a contribution. So, like I said, I think we're pretty close on track with our plan.
Thank you.
That's 10, 15 minutes you're never gonna get back.
It's clear every time, and your memo is also very helpful. Any questions for Mike? The memo's in the packet for members of the public who want to read it.
2 actions tonight. One is a resolution calling for the public hearing for that tax abatement I described. That's all it is, just calling for public hearing. We'll request publication on your behalf. And then the other action is a resolution setting the sale date of the bonds. So what that means is on October 7th for your agenda packet, the first thing we need to do is hold the abatement hearing. Then we'll approve the abatement. Then we'll talk about the bids on the bonds and award the bonds if you're happy with the results, so. And then if that goes well, we would close on the funds, October 21st.
Feels like yesterday. Any other questions? Otherwise, we could entertain a motion to, let's do those separately. The resolution calling for the public hearing on the approval tax abatement. Both are first by Brian, second by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. And then again, the resolution providing for the competitive negotiated sale of the $2,015,000 general obligation improvement and tax abatement bond. Thank you, Tim. Oh, that was Jean. First by Jean, second by Tim. I look away, you can always look there. First by Jean, second by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you, Mike. Your time is very valuable to us. We do appreciate
Oh,
the
you're very welcome.
overview. You make it very clear. And we look forward to the hearing and what we learn about.
You
rates.
bet. I'll be in touch with staff.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, staff too. Alright, now we have the request to approve an MOU. This is related to the presentation to pay $6,000 per year as a service fee essentially. For 5 years to provide matching funds for the previous bus. What they didn't explain, and I actually should press them on it, is they're leveraging, they kind of said it, they're leveraging MnDOT funding, which MnDOT funding is now requiring 15%, but 20% on these buses, leading to sort of an overall service fee of what they're estimating to be 6,000 every 5. Anything further or discussion on that item?
What are your guys' thoughts? Well, can we assess this every year and not wait 5 years or what? Cause what happens if all of a sudden,
It is per year.
well, but they're.
That's what
assessed
got
at
them.
5.
Oh, I see what you mean, and take a look at it again.
Yeah.
I think so I feel very naive about this. I'm on the transit advisory committee and I was always in the assumption that the county's paid. Because, and that this, for solely one reason that I did not ask the question of, which is that Mike Wabi invited me. He said, I think it'd be great for there to be some Wabasha representation. And I thought, sure, I'll learn about transit. And there's never been a discussion in the times that I've been on those calls about the source of funds. There's been a real angst, a very serious hand wringing about ridership because of COVID just changed everything. And then about these buses, which they have been waiting for so long. So I think their leadership has been so caught up in the inavailability of these vehicles. There has been no real thought about kind of how the fees will be managed. And I believe Tracy and Diane, while both having a lot of transit experience, are new in their leadership. So I think this is kind of their proposal. And that's the impression I got when they visited with us initially. Is that your thoughts? That this is kind of a new way that they think
Yes.
is more stable. And I don't know if it's similar enough to what they did before, which is, every 5 years you get dinged for a vehicle. But they don't want it to be that, they don't want it to be that for the organization because that put them in.
They don't
put them
want
in
to
trouble.
stop,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, right. They don't want us to have to pay a lump sum. And they don't want to be vehicle specific and how, they don't want us thinking of ourselves as paying for buses. They
Yeah,
want us to be
'cause
paying for service.
when it was a 20% match, it said they just came and had to get 16 grand.
Right.
Right off the bat.
Right,
But now the buses are double the cost, if not more.
right.
I like the fact that they're looking at other options for.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that they're
But it
starting to have
looks
the
like
easy
we
ridership again.
can terminate,
I
Just
saw
like
that at any time.
but at any time, whereas Three Rivers can only terminate. If there's a breach. In agreement with the city.
I mean, partly it's important, I think we need to look at it, but all of a sudden, it's like, you look at some of these numbers, 22, 23 is 9,000, and then all of a sudden 2024 is 6,200. Well, I mean, we're projected to go to what, 5,000 for 2025, I mean, if it keeps dropping. I guess, what's the point of the 30 grand, right?
Right.
That's why I asked if we could reevaluate. Do it once this year, reevaluate it next year, can we do it on a year-to-year basis instead of a 5-year thing?
When did they
I
make
don't,
it?
I mean, obviously, we could terminate it per this agreement anytime, for any reason.
But you're saying put it on the agenda for a year.
Well, I think we need to discuss it for a year if that's the case.
It's one of, it's one of those things, it's sort of like, there's a cost of sort of public health services and then usership's gonna change all the time. But I like you have noted that those are really dramatic shifts, in 2021 and 2. Was really robust ridership, what that isn't COVID acting, that is, so what's the dip now, and I think is it because of. They didn't talk about, is it fleet unavailability, and I can ask this, in future TAC meetings, but there's a real kind of community by community. The thoughts about ridership are very community by community, because of course, if you live in a community where there's. A planned route and they're going to these, planned locations like a shopping center and a hospital, we don't have that, so. It's a very personal service here, it's on demand. And. Yeah, I think you have to do this still within 24 hours, you have to have the request within 24 hours, so it's not a particularly flexible. Solution. But it's the model that works for our community, because a planned route really doesn't make sense for our community. I know they try to make the bus more visible, or they say that they try to make the bus more visible, they don't just drive around because of the fuel costs, but they'll try to park. Where the semis park, or they'll try to park near the grocery store, or near the Dollar General, or someplace where they can be visible. DAC, I feel, is the high utilizer. Just because our disabled numbers, although many elderly people are disabled as well, so it's hard to tease out, I've never been able to get a clear answer. Wabasha's disabled utilization is higher than other communities, and I would say, why is that? And they say, probably the DAC, but I don't know if they really know if it's that, or if we have a high number of disabled individuals. Independent disabled individuals that are riding in addition to DAC, because then I start thinking about it really as it's public transit infrastructure that we need to stabilize. I do know that the Head Start thing, that comes up over and over again, that other communities have really built ridership up because of their preschool, pre-K ridership, and that was just something that either our prior administration chose not to advocate for, or didn't see the need for, or they just never explored it, but I really urge them to look into it with our school, with the new administration in place. I don't know how that
Okay, so I
affects
hear
those
Jeff's
things.
comments.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Regarding Three Rivers request for 30,000 6K a year for 5 years. He asked, do the counties and cities in their service area make the same contribution? It sounds like all the cities are, but not the county. Based on 6 months of ridership this year, January through June, they averaged 14 riders per day. This is a 0.6% of Wabasha's population. If transportation is needed so badly, has anyone contacted Sunset Mobility to see if they can meet this minimal need? And he just attaches a picture of a van. I've attached a picture of one of their vehicles, a van, which is more suitable for this amount of ridership. I'm opposed to this cost to the property taxpayers. All I see is an empty bus sitting around.
So I know from the Age Friendly Initiative, the 2 domains that were identified as most important were housing and healthcare, community healthcare services, but transportation came up a million times in those themes. And one thing that's come from the surveys and the listening sessions is that those fantastic services, if they're covered by insurance, it's one thing, but if they're not, if the private payer has to pay that, it's $100 trip. So that sometimes makes sense for major procedures and certainly for going a distance, but that would never make sense to go from your, house on 12th Street to your hospital.
Yeah, sunset mobility is extremely, that's,
Very flexible.
yeah, they're flexible, but they're very, it's,
So 1-to-1,
yeah, it's,
right?
yeah, it's more. I don't want to say this, I can't think of what everyone wants.
Yeah,
Do you have information?
Specialized, that's what I was saying.
right.
So I use Sunset Mobility a lot with my dad when he was going to and from the nursing home in the city to Rochester. It's not cheap. It's not for everyday use for people. We were paying $175 each way just to take them to appointments in Rochester. They're not hardly ever on time. My dad missed 2 appointments one day because they were an hour and a half late picking him up. So it's a good service, but it's not something that you can count on for everyday use, and it's financially for everyday use, it's not feasible either.
Yeah, it doesn't scale.
I mean, and we could see a rider increase in the next couple of years too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the trends are down.
They're kind of all over the place. They're all over the place in all the cities. They don't, I wish they would, actually, that would be maybe something they could provide to us is what is our trend prior to COVID, for a 10-year period, because it's really, it's like this, it's not, it tanked in COVID, so that kind of wasn't really a good beginning of the slide there, because of course, everything closed in COVID. But what happened before COVID, I think, was also sort of variable, so I do like their thought that you're paying for a service, you're paying that service to be there, you're not paying for a bus that may or may not have people on it, you're paying for the entire apparatus of Three Rivers, like she said, they're working on safety, they're working on better rider experience, and they really do have a stigma. In fact, it's even in our agenda packet, this is for disabled people and elderly people, they have a marketing issue, so, you know, one of the things that they've done is added a person who goes into communities and essentially markets the service, and I urge them to come to our library, to come to our new apartment building when they have their community space open, to really get the word out about their new bus, you know, these are nice new vehicles and.
If we chose not to contribute, it wouldn't necessarily mean that they're gonna leave town.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think that's what it means. Then they would no longer provide services to us.
I asked that question, I didn't get an answer.
I should have asked when
Yeah.
we were here.
Mhm.
You think we're gonna direct answer?
I hope so.
So they're trying to put, you know, they're trying to create a stable operational model, which is
Yeah.
good. That's a good plan. I'm glad. I would never want this to surprise another future administration, like, oh, you need even a $6,000 annual contribution, but certainly not a bus. You know, 20% of a bus right now.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I think we need to address it every year. I mean, because if you look at the numbers, so 2020, COVID, I would assume the numbers, so 4,200 roughly. But 2025, no COVID, we're on pace for 5,000. I mean,
Yeah, they've just, it's like they've
it's not
lost,
like it's,
like they've lost track in
Exactly.
people's,
Yeah.
lives. It's like people found other solutions.
Jesse, have you gotten any anecdotal information through the front desk about?
It's the same people that buy tokens every time.
But they can get them here from you.
I'm super torn on this one, cause I think it's a valuable service. I mean, I think I'd be willing to do a year and see where we're at next year.
that's what I would move for. So when we're doing budgeting, we should bring it up and say, hey, present like we do with all of our other people that
Plus.
are in our budget, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I get the statistics quarterly. If anybody ever wants to see how other communities are doing, you know, because they all, like I said, they all go up and down to it. It's not a. You know, it's like any transit, any public transit, it's not something that you can control demand for. You have to build demand for it. And that ridership experience has to be good. It can't be late. It can't be, you know.
I think the other thing I was completely unaware of, if we were a participant in this service, because so we certainly get a lot out on our website, Facebook. Wabasha helping Wabasha, I mean, if they come up with a marketing piece, I was completely unaware we were a supporter of theirs. I mean,
Yeah,
so were you,
yeah.
we had no idea, we paid for part of the vehicle. So I think they need to do a better job of, like you said, being treated like everyone else, which is come give us an annual report and tell us. Oh, you're
well,
doing.
I mean, we asked
Yeah.
Main Street to give us a report, we asked everybody else, why, if we're giving them money yearly. I wanna know what they're doing to improve it.
Can we just budget discuss it at our next workshop?
If we're gonna approve this item,
Yeah, or
okay,
if we're gonna budget it for the year.
oh, next year, you mean?
Yeah, 2026, yeah.
We're proposing approving it this year, but continuing to bring it back annually.
So, yes, that's what I would do. So in August of next year, 2026, it gets brought up and they present on. Why they need another 3 or 6,000. I'm just not comfortable approving it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Just
And I-
because.
I think it should then get moved into our operating budget, because where it's a fee for service, it's
Right.
not like we're literally buying a bus anymore, so. We
Just
will
a
make that
contract for
change,
service.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so is that something we can, are we allowed to modify this MOU in that, with that regard?
Well, I mean,
Just
we can,
approving it and just.
we can
addressing it.
approve the, I would say we can approve the MOU, but we're gonna address it every year. Cause according to this, we can actually terminate for any reason.
Yep.
30 days, so. As long as I think we have that out, I'm fine with it.
Can we send back that MOU though and request that they do a report yearly?
We can edit the MOU to say that. I'm sure,
Yeah, I mean, they're having statistics every quarter.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we could modify it to say we'll do 6,000 every year, well, I would assume they would want, third, but tough.
I'd like to see a change before we approve it.
Or approve with that change.
Yeah.
okay, and then also say you'll make annual reports to the city of Wabasha with ridership information, et cetera. Right, cause right now it says Three River just makes necessary reports to the.
Well, I think it should be treated just like shape, what are you doing to improve actually just printing things doesn't make any sense nowadays, so what are they doing to increase in the money? I'm fine with delaying it.
Do we wanna put in and make that report available in August? Cause we don't put a time frame on it, they can do their fiscal year.
I think that's probably a good idea. Are you willing to make that motion to
To,
approve with those changes?
yeah, I mean, if they're gonna change it. But are we sending it back with those
I think the
suggestions?
proposal is we'll amend the MOU and bring it back, so it's directing staff.
Yeah, so next
Okay,
month.
so next month we'll do that, okay, yeah, that's fine.
That's
Yeah.
fine by me.
Sounds good, okay. Yeah, and I'll try to learn, now that I realize our sort of role in their funding, which of course is a small amount of where their funding comes from, but I'll try to be more critical of what I'm seeing, it's a lot, because you're looking at really hard to compare cities like Faribault and Northfield or Red Wing versus us. But then I'll look at a city that seems similar and their statistics to this, the usership is very different. The disabled piece really stands out for me for Wabasha, and I just never have gotten them to say like, well, you have a ton of disabled senior users. And you've got the DAC, so
Yeah.
I'll just continue, and Diana and Tracy have really improved the communications as. In writing and every part of their involvement has improved, kind of my awareness of where they're at.
Are they fairly new in their roles?
Yeah, goals, but I don't think they're new to Kiowa,
Oh,
yeah. Or maybe one of them is, but I remember Tracy's name from. Some time back, but she's been leading the TAS, the Transit Advisory Committee. And I think they're in sort of co-director role, sounds like. Diana sort of on the financing side and Tracy more the operational, the bus, their infrastructure. All right, that's good. And now, the preliminary budget levy. There. You wanna talk about this at all?
Yep.
So at our budget workshop for the public, we take a look at the budget for the first time in a budget workshop in July, August. When was it? It was August, yeah. Where almost half of the year is already completed, so we understand costs halfway through 2025. Staff, there's a very detailed budget packet. And we basically look at this now every month and sometimes with another special meeting until we have to approve our budget by the end of the year.
So, right now for the prelim, we're looking at, a 12% increase from 2025 to 2026. And just to again highlight kind of the major changes, the debt service levy. For the new road project is about 4% of that 12%. And then the rest of it is, due to general wage increases. Currently, we have the same CIP contribution as last year. Fire department is requesting an increase, for, on-call pay rates, as well as they had an increase in call volume. Ambulance has a request, for a little bit additional payroll wages that we're gonna look at in an ad hoc. And it also assumes a 15% increase in healthcare, health insurance, and we'll know that amount in December. And November, December is when we'll finally approve the budget. And the budget also includes some additional funding for the Port Authority to pay a portion of my salary and Tyler's salary, because we staff that. And so I think to summarize, some of the discussion was, let's set it pretty high. We're hoping for some favorable numbers coming out for the ambulance service. To improve some revenues, we're hoping for favorable numbers with health insurance coming out. And then the other thing we had a lot of discussion is that since so much of the budget is truly wages, that leaves relatively little that we can play with. A couple things that we're still working on since we met is that, last year there was a proposal that the Port Authority take over payment of Main Street in the Chamber of Commerce. That's a relatively small amount, but that'll go on the next board meeting. And so you would see that in October, if we're able to, take that out. The other thing, we talked a little bit about the CIP and just some of the challenges of wanting potentially, that's an area to cut, but then we have, equipment that
Delayed
needs
equipment
to,
purchasing.
Tony pointed out today, his plow truck is 20 years old. Correct, Tony? So I think that was older than I had, mine. So anyways, we're going to be researching some of that and bringing that back, to you. If there's ways to raise fees, which get paid for by nonprofit organizations rather than just put everything on the property tax levy, which is only paid by taxpayers in Wabasha. And so, Jeff did send me some comments that I can share. So just for everyone in the audience, council did a turn page on the entire budget, a couple weeks ago at our packet, and we went through everything in detail. So I'm just giving you the highlights, and we won't make you page through the budget. I don't think they want to do that.
Want to, it's fine.
But it's all online. We will also publish it on our website as well. If people want to take a look at the budget packet, which just includes what I'm summarizing, the changes, and then tons and tons of charts and graphics. Our biggest change is as our expenses go up, it's just really hard to move the needle on revenues, because things like, park fees, etc., account for a relatively small portion. The one thing that's been growing rather well has been the ambulance service line, which we are watching, but they are a few months delayed in their revenues. Jeff's comments that I received is, would we consider that asking all departments to, he'd like to be at an 8%, cut a 5% reduction to all line items other than the things they don't control, which is salaries and benefits. So come back with a 5% reduction and, present what that looks like. He suggests a 3-year replacement schedule for police squad cars. And then that are his main, I think, suggestions, that maybe this 5%, everybody goes back and tries to cut 5 other than salaries. Would that help lower the levy? So those were some comments he provided.
So 12 makes me a little nervous. I'm just being honest, because I'm not sure what you're gonna learn about healthcare, and we learned that so late. And for the public's understanding, this is a ceiling. We are publishing our ceiling levy. The state requires it. We will work all the way through the year to move it down. I think moving it to a single digit would be nearly impossible. I mean, I was looking at the CIP, I couldn't add up anything substantial that isn't like really needed. It's either gonna be needed this year or next year, so what difference does it make? We either get on it, or we, have an artificially high 14% increase in a future year, which it's that variability that makes people crazy. Everybody understands the cost of goods and services goes up, and that's true for government as well. But when people see it 3, 7, 9, 12, that's the part that I think really people have a hard time understanding. Because people also have a hard time understanding that a lot of the increase in their taxes is dependent on the increase in the value of their property, which of course we don't have control over, and they don't have control over, so for the most part. So I think that that desire to get to sort of this thing that we think is gonna make people happy, nobody wants their taxes to increase for any percentage. So I just feel like our body has to be putting staff in a position to responsibly, keep people employed, which is the biggest cost driver. If we're gonna cut 5% of any department budget, I don't know how that isn't a service cut, then we'd have to be really seriously talking about service cuts. We can't ask our staff to make those kind of decisions as we round off the year. I think that needs to be then, we don't want Tony's budget to be this in future years, so we're gonna talk all next year about how we decrease it by 5%, because we have to be responsible for what those cuts look like, that's our job, that's not Tony's job at this point. He's telling us what the budget is to perform the services and work that needs to be done, true for every department, I know, I've talked to Joe about this. You basically don't change your budget, it's not like you're looking for new things to add on, right, so every year is basically the same budget with just cost inflation factored in, you know, which is how budgets usually are made. So I don't know how we get a 5% cut out of any budget, let alone all budgets, I think that's kind of a fool's errand to ask staff to do that. Maybe we talk seriously about the CIP, that's where I kind of was left hanging, because I don't know as well as our department heads do. How critical is it that something is this year, not next year, I know that we bumped things beyond what was probably good planning already on some of those items. But just having and if it's not significant, if it doesn't make a ding, then we don't do it, then we don't cut it. If it, you know, I was adding up things, I was like, that doesn't add up much, and that doesn't add up too much, there's a lot of little things on that CIP that are, you can cross them off and it doesn't help us, it's just something that's deferred. Yeah, I'm just worried about insurance, so I would be okay if staff does come with the 12, I'm okay with 12, I might be a little more comfortable saying 13 just because of that uncertainty. Knowing that whatever savings we identify, we're just gonna drop it by that exact amount, so. You know, if you're estimating 15, it comes in 14, well then that's real, that's a real savings, or real. Reduced reduced expected cost. You know, Tim and I were on the, we didn't report, you guys, I kind of apologize, but we talked to the staff about benefits and the plan adoption and that, and there is a portion of that that does hit employees' pockets and depending on their plan selection, but also just depending on how the plans are structured. And so I like to think of that benefit allocation as more of a policy oriented, are we going to wiggle our? Are we gonna move benefits, you know? Are we gonna tease the employees at the end of the year that benefits are always on the table, or is that kind of against our policy? Do we really wanna do that? If we really wanna do that, then I guess that's on the table every year and have that difficult discussion, but maybe Caroline can share. One slide that I thought was particularly interesting, not now, but in an email where, yeah, in the future, gonna share, it was you know, sort of our competitors. The competitors were broader than I see as our competition, I see our competition from a budget standpoint as like cities. And every city is so different, it's fascinating, I mean, like, what is Plainview, all union?
Yeah.
So it's hard to even find a like city, really, I don't see us as a competitor with the county, I think of them as somebody we should worry about our employees going to work for sure. So like Rob was saying, well, they are a competitor. They are from a standpoint that like we could lose employees, but just like Wabasha Dentistry could lose employees to the Mayo Clinic. But we're not like enough to have similar access to plan coverage that a county has access to. We know that. So just look, but it's interesting to see how different we are. And we're not out of line. We're not over compensating our employees in wages or benefits. We are right on target, but we're not over. If we were over, which I didn't know, I might have wanted to have a conversation with staff about that, like, you know, just so we can make sure we're keeping wages on track, we gotta be realistic about benefits, but we're not an outlier at all.
This was I'm gonna update it, this was a couple years
Sure,
ago.
'cause you've got more information.
But I've gotta update it, but this is where. We were I just used the Mayo plan, that's our most expensive plan, and the Mayo Access, we were at 610. And then you can see the range, so you can see that, you know, some communities are higher.
And then who's the one that's low, is that?
And then Plainview is union, so they don't pay a premium. Wabasha County is much lower.
They're a much bigger
WK,
organization, they're competing very
yeah.
differently for plans.
Lake City was like. You know, 667, 610, but you know, it could be a lesser benefit. We were very close to Pine Island, Chatfield. And maybe a little less than St. Charles, Cannon Falls, so.
So
But I have to update these numbers.
Yeah, I don't see that, I don't think that's something we. Manipulate to try to address the levy, I think that's right where it should, we appear to be right where we should be. We can't do anything about paid leave, that's required, we can't. I mean, our step, you know, people are on a step increase, I'm not interested in holding salaries and doing a salary freeze. We've got union contract negotiation with police. We've got this fire department payroll, which is doesn't even get us close to what I think Darren said other cities are seeing. So without all those big wage and benefit costs, the only thing that I feel like we have some ability to kind of really try to have an honest conversation about the impact on his CIP items, and even there. The little ones to me don't add up, even all of the little ones together don't add up to something significant, so I don't know, I would dicker too much about those, it's maybe understanding the critical need for the big ones. That's just kind of my. I feel like this is where we kind of end up each year. Which is good, we don't have some big horrible. Financial problem or, project that's creating a lot of. Issues, it's just that this is what it costs to do the work that we're currently doing. I've never once had somebody urge a service. Like a service reduction, I can't even think of something, I'm not even sort of an offhanded comment where somebody said that, the city really doesn't need to do that. I just can't think of one. Anybody else have any thoughts, otherwise we can. Have a motion on that 12% or another number,
Yeah, it's just a placeholder,
exactly.
so we can cut, so I'm fine with 12.
So my first question is staff okay with the 12%? Do you think that's appropriate? Cause I think it is, but. And then my only other comment is, how do we compare with our fees
That's the
structure? How do we compare to other communities? Which, I know it's hard because we're on the river, it's hard to find a small town on a river, but.
Like for.
Our fees are, that we charge, are they competitive, are they too much, are they
So
not?
that's like an analysis that we had to go. Fee by fee, so Jesse, you wanna comment on your research today, with that?
Some we were higher on, some we were normal. I mean, I don't think that we had anything that was super low.
We've raised them several times in the
Yeah.
last several
You guys
years.
are
This
really
year,
thorough,
I just-
a really thorough review a couple years ago.
I mean, I know that they're talking campground, but I think we were pretty comparable there. I know our liquor licenses are lower than Elgin, but pretty much higher than other places, I mean. The park rentals seem to be the same, the cigarette licenses were high on one and low on another by drastic amounts, but. Sunday sales are maxed. Off sale was like only one that could possibly go up, and that was like by $100.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not anything drastic enough that it's gonna affect your budget amounts.
I don't know if she increased everything. No, I'm fine with it, I mean, I just bring it up.
Always good to check.
I mean, obviously, I don't want to go to the extreme as Jeff, but I mean, obviously, we should look at, and I agree with. The mayor that the CIP is probably the best benefit to look at, but again, you're just shifting it down the road. I mean, some of these things that are on there, like the Lucas device, the value is just. You can't put up money back, cause I've used it, the benefits is amazing, but we still should look at it, so.
But our last Lucas devices were, there was a fundraiser that was done,
Yeah.
so that's how we bought those.
What Ryan did this time is he's in them to get some savings, so his original amount was a one-time $75,000 price tag. And now it's over a 3-year period, and is
With
it
service, right?
Yeah, with
15,000?
Preventative maintenance, which currently we pay for it, and now it's included in the purchase price.
That's smart.
Yeah, so, yeah, we could do a fundraiser, but I think some of the. Is like, do we really wanna do a fundraiser for the thing that we absolutely need,
It doesn't make a ding, it's not,
Yeah.
that it's not gonna move the numbers. It's-
So I thought his financing plan looked good, and that's the one Tony did for his toolkits. So, yeah, that
It's good.
one ended up being only 13,000 over 2 years, so that's be good.
I mean, I was moved to approve the for a preliminary budget levy resolution.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, it says approved capital improvement plan, but since we're continuing to talk about cutting the budget, we'll finalize that in the budget.
Sounds good, do we have a second?
I'll second the 12%.
We have a first from Tim, second from Brian, thank you guys for letting me have a little moment.
No, it's fine.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed say no. Alright, now our, porta potty discussion, which Tony had some, I think it was funny, Tony, you wanna share with us what your perspective is?
I understand the request like everybody else, but you know, if we get to budget time. You know, here we go, we're gonna add this in the budget, and we're trying to go down and a couple of these things are, you know, gonna take it up, so. Caroline, did you have, I gave you that amount for like the total yearly,
Mm-hmm.
do you remember what that was, or?
Yeah, it's on a prior, I think it was like. Yeah, let me look that up,
I thought it was.
does anyone else remember, cause. I put it along with his guest talk a couple
Mhm.
months ago,
That's where I
in
see it.
July.
Says the line item would range from 50 to 70.
That's for something. For something else.
It is.
Yeah. That's the overall park maintenance budget, so to do more street work, I need to take some money out of parks.
So right now, we pay $4,865 a year for porta potties. So an 88 porta potty is $200 a month, about $1,400 a year, and a regular porta potty is $165 a month, $1,155, and I think. We do it April through September,
Mhm.
so that represents the typical time frame.
When it comes down to it, you know, do we wanna spend another roughly $1,000 on another porta potty for the park? And. I mean, it's, if you look at Eagles Pace, I mean, that's now a park and there was no bathrooms. So that was kind of a no-brainer to put one there. Maybe we don't next year. But, you know, there's already two at Heritage Park, and then we just felt that, you know, why should we have three and not one at another park? That was part of that discussion, but,
So, but
you know,
as far as,
especially because.
correct me if I'm wrong, because this was, I got this information sort of after the event, I think you guys maybe learned of it right around the time that it happened. My understanding was not there's a line for the restrooms, it was that the porta potties were already maxed out at Heritage Park by that time they had that big event, was that accurate?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's, well, you know, the chamber, they take care of Riverboat Days, you know, they have what, 20 down there. But like Fridays under the bridge, at certain times, you know, that's what I heard is there's a line. To use them, so.
Which is okay, there can be a line during an event, but I didn't even hear that there wasn't a line, I just heard that they were full, and that was,
Yeah, I heard
that was sort of a, like a, oh, we have to solve this
You
quickly.
like the tank full.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
that wasn't true, okay.
It was the usage, like
Oh, okay,
people waiting, or there's a lot of people using them.
okay,
No, they're emptied,
weekly
every
or,
Thursday night.
yeah, okay, alright.
Just to make sure for the Fridays.
Yeah, it's just an unusual thing. I was thinking about, the chamber has their events, they're very, contained to a weekend. Whereas the RJAC events are every Friday for June, July, August, and 4 months. So it's a park that receives, certainly the porta potties are appropriate for general use of the park. More than adequate. It's this 4 months where the park is used as a really big convening space every single Friday. So, Paul also discussed whether there would ever be a permanent, he was advocating for a permanent restroom. I said, we have one planned, but it's not there, it wouldn't be suitable for that use.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we continue to revisit that in a long term, that doesn't solve the situation short term, but we can abide by Tony's recommendation and keep talking about that.
the only thing I was gonna add is if you wanted to treat them like Main Street and Chamber, you can ask them to make another request, which we're sending theoretically to the Port Authority, saying we need assistance to add a porta potty for our event. I think Tony's point is, it's due to the event, not general usage of the park, so
Right.
he's kind of questioning roles, we
Yeah.
don't do it for Riverboat Days, so it
Yeah.
seems like if your special organization needs funding, you could theoretically get in line with the Port Authority. We can barely, every year, we wanna cut Chamber and,
Yeah.
Main Street, so it's hard to think of us. But now we've added the food share for 4,000, that's the other thing we need to send over to, Port Authority is the list of nonprofits that we support is expanding.
Yeah, the whole transit for disabled people is important enough to me. I'm entertaining this 6,000 a year. But I'm so close to not wanting to do that as well, and so. To keep adding stuff, I'm just not in favor of it, 2 is plenty for normal use.
I'm with you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm,
And I think Paul said in his comments to council, he just needs to know that if that's gonna be the case. The earlier the better, they can look at their own financial arrangements for that, whether it's like you said,
Yeah.
seeking donations or grant funding in order to cover that cost, yeah.
yes.
The other piece of it that I guess is tricky is we don't. It's not like the pool where we are in control of the utilization.
If different events cause, you know, more use and, should be looked at like what the chamber does for riverboat days, that's what I was. Yeah.
Do we need to make a motion then?
I don't know, do we have to? It's just that we're getting staff recommendation not to add it.
We have to make a motion, make it, let it die, right?
Motion to deny.
I would move to deny it.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a first and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, I know those little organizations are powerhouses, they are doing everything they can to get the little funding that they have available into action, so they wanna. Keep doing good and yeah. And they do good, and we should also remember to thank them for the contributions they make back to us now in this. Fundraising approach they've started. All right, sidewalks.
I'm good with leaving it the way it is. We have an issue, we address it. Do you want to talk about it? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the ones, so when I did it the first time, I think that was a lot of stuff that had never been touched for 20, 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
But like when I deal with stuff on a case by case basis, right now I got 2 in my head. That's out of the whole town. Could somebody go out and rather find some more stuff, you know, with the level and tools and to really get picky about it, I'm sure there could. But, yeah, I'd rather stay with a complaint basis, process and not cause uproar in the community and, you know, family money's tight right now and, that's Friday. So, you know, if I had somebody else to take that over, like if we wanted to hire a company, that might be an option, but I don't know how that would turn out.
I would feel like they'd be incentivized to
Yeah,
identify
do you
problems.
trust them? You
Yeah.
know, they're in a, you know, do they get a percentage, you know, how does that all work? And I don't know. Yeah.
I would just add that, Jessica shared that there are definitely communities that add this on as a fee. So that when your sidewalk needs to get repaired, you pay 0, like Plainview. But at this point, we're having discussions to add on fees just to get the CIP covered.
Yeah.
But do you remember how much your sidewalk, we can do research on a sidewalk fee. Dean was the one saying, let's cover more, let's cover 50-50 of someone's sidewalk. Was it 50-50? I think that's what he said.
That's what it said in
But
there.
she's saying it's 100%. I mean, we could make it a research project when it becomes a concern.
I find that very appealing because it's manageable, you know, those costs aren't high when they come all at once, whether it's 50-50 or not, no support by the city, it's.
When I bought my house, I had brand new sidewalk that cost them nothing for $1.75 a month. And I paid $2 towards compost.
There's cities that do that with utilities too, so like if you wanna pay insurance, you know, there's companies that do that, well, you know, you don't. People usually have to pay the whole service to the main, I guess, you know, that's gonna be $5 grand, $3 to $5 grand or more. And there's communities where you can pay insurance a little bit a month and then it's covered, they just, city takes care of it, and how many fees do you want?
Well, I don't know how, I don't think people compare how many fees does my city have compared to the neighboring city, it's more like, is that good policy making, because nobody gets surprised with a multi-$1,000. You know, I just think ours was just low in front of our house, we didn't address it because it wasn't really a safety issue, except when it was icy, and we'd salt the heck out of it. But it was kind of unusual, I kind of got sick of having to do that, it was a big expense just for improving what was an intact sidewalk. We were surprised, so.
Well, I'm doing fee research regardless, so I can research this under fees and we can just add it to conversations, but. It sounds like we are, as staff saying, we'll continue to operate on a complaint based only. And then if we want to have savings to cover and change it, so it's not 100% on the homeowner. And fees, I guess.
Once that's the case, then I think you can be a little more strict with compliance, because there's a basis for it to be, you know, not fully the residential property owner's problem, or commercial property for some person's problem.
I remember Mayor Misha's face, he's like, what?
You do. So the sidewalk policy that's the agenda, is that current? So we should revise that.
We probably need to revise it to say that it's on a complaint base.
Well, I mean, this, the first thing under procedure
It says
is
revise.
conduct the survey, which is
Yeah.
not what we want to do.
We kind of wanted to see what the plan was tonight, and then if we wanted to bring it back next month, we could revert it. and-
I would,
And did Dean give any feedback? Cause I wasn't even sure what he really even wanted to be reviewed.
his biggest issue, from my understanding, I don't wanna speak for him, is the whole fee, who pays for it.
Okay,
That's what I'm interpreting, but I could be completely wrong.
in the removal, right?
Well, I don't know why people have the authority to remove a sidewalk.
Yeah,
not
so
put it in. That's a
one
whole
thing
other
we did
issue.
conclude was that any sidewalk removals in the future will come to council, it won't just be approved by street committee.
That's good.
Yeah, as long as we're changing it, then we add that too.
Mhm.
It's always been the street commission, but it's. Certain places get, you know, kind of like which way you go, so it's an important sidewalk, but it doesn't go anywhere, but still it's.
So we will amend the sidewalk policy to leave it as complaint based. We'll leave it as 100%, but then maybe when Dean's present, he could amend it to say 50/50, and we'll look into fees too.
This is just a policy, it's not an ordinance, so we don't have to go like
That's a-
do an ordinance change or anything.
No, I think
Well,
it's
it's just a
something,
policy, so-
yeah,
Alright, perfect. Okay.
But if I had to take care of some of the sidewalks and they couldn't afford it, it would be assessed on their taxes or something, I don't know if that's
yeah.
ordinance side or policy side.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
All right, now the conversation on the interfund loan, which Kay asked about.
We gotta do it.
Who wants to take it?
Tyler? Go ahead.
Yeah, we're applying for BDPI funding for the Wabasha Road project. We're just with the application, we basically have to show that the Port Authority has at least $748,788. So they've already got $150,000 loan, and then there's another $150 that's been approved but not transferred. Just because the port hasn't needed that fund balance yet, they've been sustaining on their own. So we would transfer that $150 and then approve an additional $100. And like we addressed earlier, this is just to get grant funding, the port will have the money to pay it back once the barge terminal is up and running. We have another winter haul plan, so. Just kind of, it's all in the same city bank account, it's literally just behind the scenes shifting money from one fund to the other, so it's not even moving bank
That's
accounts.
worth noting, it's all in the same.
It's all, yeah, and all money's actually getting moved.
Accounting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just was reminded that this was something that Kathy Anderson identified, our CETA rep, and this, she's throwing so much spaghetti against the wall, it's hard to keep up sometimes, but really great. Her to realize there was this funding to develop the infrastructure on the large terminal. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna give us grants, I'll move to approve it.
Second.
We have Jane's like, I couldn't get it. We have a first by Tim, a second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That's great, okay. And now that BDPI grant fund is a simple resolution.
Yep, and I just wanted to clarify that only the city is eligible to apply for this grant, not the port, so the old resolution kind of had port language, and this just makes it clear it's all city, so that, again, it's kind of confusing, they're different, but we're one and we kind of operate together. So this would have been in consent, but we just got it, so. Yep.
Anyone care to move?
Move.
Jean,
Second.
second Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's good news. Okay, and then now the donations for September. To the fire